Welcome to City on a Hill Gaming, a 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons actual play podcast. We hope you enjoy our episode. Welcome back to City on a Hill Gaming. I am not your Game Master Ryan anymore. Hi, I am Ryan. I will introduce your Game Master in just a moment. This is a little bit of a special series we're going to be doing for the next couple of months. Give you guys something different. Let us do something a little bit different, and we will go from there. So, Grant, I will let you take it away.
Okay. So, hi, I'm Grant. I am GMing this time. Hooray. This is exciting. And Ryan's playing this time.
I have a character almost.
I know. It's pretty awesome. He's very excited about this, guys. You have no idea.
The forever a GM syndrome is real, and Ryan is getting a break from it.
Yep. And of course we have, of course, William.
Hello.
We have Daniel.
Yo.
And we have Benjamin.
Hi-yo.
And we have Peter as well, one of my co-hosts on Saving the Game. We don't have Jenny, if you listened to last season of City on a Hill. She has elected to sit this one out just because she's a librarian, and librarians are kind of crazy right now, yo. So, yeah. She's got job stuff, and we get it. But I have a little bit of time to work on stuff, and so, hooray, we're doing a game. So let's talk about Session 0. How many of you have done a Session 0 for a game before?
Well, you know I have, because I've done them with you.
Right, but you barely count. You've done all of this with me.
This is true. I have done Session 0s from both sides of the GM screen, with and without you. How's that?
Cool. That's excellent. Ryan, have you?
I have not.
Okay.
This is a first for Ryan.
I don't know if you said Ben or Daniel, but Daniel, have had half of one. I had a Session 0 basically all through text.
Okay. That counts, though. That counts. That's helpful, regardless.
Yes.
Ben, how about you?
I have introduced people to role-playing games through a very, very, very bad Session 0, just to get them into it, but nothing official.
Okay. That's fine. That's still valid. And William, how about you?
No.
Okay, so this is going to be a learning experience for more than half of the group, which is pretty exciting, and hopefully a learning experience for everyone else who's listening to this, because the Session 0 planning a game like this is, in my opinion, the most important thing that can happen in a role-playing game.
This is kind of the breakfast is the most important meal of the day for gaming, really.
Right, but without the selling of sugary cereal.
Yes, exactly.
Aww.
Listen, my kids are on a Fruit Loops kick. I get it, but nutrition actually matters. Let's talk about what we're doing here. The goal of a Session 0 is to establish the setting ahead of time so that people are not making characters in a void and bringing them to a world that they know nothing about. To establish a group template so that we all kind of know who our characters are in relation to the world and to this idea of an adventuring party, right? Or more to the point, who we are in relation to each other. And I say we kind of from the GM's seat, royal we, but it helps me a great deal to know what are your relationships, because that's something I want to build on in game. We're going to talk about how you all are connected to each other, not just as a group, but like individually. What are your individual relationships? We're not going to define every single one. We want to leave lots of room to let things grow over time, but we want to have a few hooks already set up, because that's more fun, right? I mean, who here has shown up at a game going, I don't know any of these people, and I'm just going to sit here and do my character things and try and steal the spotlight?
Yeah, it's not fun.
It's not fun.
No one likes to be the guy sitting in the corner waiting for an opportunity to make a joke.
Right. Or the guy sitting here going, aha, my chance to roleplay, and leaping in because nobody's passing the spotlight around. When you know things about each other's character, you know those moments where you can pass things back and forth. I mean, look at how well we were doing at the end of Season 2 of City on a Hill, as opposed to at the beginning, when we didn't know anything about any of our characters, right?
Reasonable.
And that's not a knock on you, right? It's just how games function.
We should have done it then, and I didn't. And I think you guys would have had a better flow with each other. And I think it maybe even would have given me and you and me a better understanding of who I was interacting with. And I think that could have some kind of effect on the story that's definitely positive.
Right. Plus, It's good podcasting. We
There's
know
also
something about
that.
each other's characters, right? We're getting into the drama right at the start. And the other really important thing that we're going to be doing is going over safety stuff, because safety matters, and here we're talking about, are there things that we just do not want in this game? Are we comfortable calling those out? And I'm going to have more to say about safety. I'm sure Peter will have something to say about that as well. He and I are both big proponents of this. But we're going to touch on that. We've gamed together before, and there are some extra limits that Ryan puts on the setting because he sort of owns the setting, as it were.
Well, and because this is supposed to be family friendly, I mean, we're going to have a lot more controls on this than we would in one of our home games because it's supposed to basically be G-rated.
Yeah, exactly. And that's great. But even then, it's like, are there themes we don't want to hit on, right? And I don't expect we're going to hit many of them, but it's worth calling them out. And I'll have more to say about that when we get to it. But first off, before any of that, let's talk about the game itself. I've gone over the pitch with everyone already, but I'm just going to read it off real quick. So here's the pitch that I sent all of you, and hopefully this has you thinking about characters and kind of fired up for the game here. The trade links between Ajoran and VR are some of Selansar's harshest. Volcanic wastes, deserts of black sand, and sharp precipices make all but a few routes impassable. Those roads are dependent on a series of oases, wellsprings of life in an otherwise inhospitable land, almost single-handedly supporting wary and isolationist nomadic clans, strange and hardy wildlife, and wealthy trade caravans. Over the past month, rumors have spread through VR like a sandstorm. Something is wrong in the north. They say the caravans have stopped. They say it's not safe on the roads. They say the waste clans have turned mad. They say whole towns have been abandoned. But one panicked rumor, always whispered and always met with fear, persists above all the others. They say the oases are gone. So that's my pitch to you for the game. What do you guys want to bring to that as players and as characters? Like what hooks do you have that you want to bring in?
Well, I think I should note the region we're using in the world for this game expressly is one that is A, largely unexplored on audio, and B, relatively undefined by my pre-building of things. So we have a lot of freedom here to kind of get into some interesting things. And you have already gone a very specific direction, and I like that, and it lays into some of what I envision for the area, kind of from a desert sense. So I think there's some cool things we can play with, particularly with the concept of mirages and sort of that oasis concept and what's really out there. And I think that's really interesting. I think it's a good opportunity for us to do something a little different from our norm. Good. So I am excited.
Excellent. So here's the first thing I want to ask you. We're talking about a part of the world we haven't really explored previously. VR. We were there briefly during part of the campaign, but that was about it. Do you guys want to be from there?
So I would have to go back and look at a map because I'm forgetting my region names, which is unfortunate because I named them. Or if you have that in front of you, Grant, what is the region above VR?
Ajoran. That is the area you said was kind of an elemental waste.
Okay, so that is actually where my character would be from. That is the primary inhabitants of Genasi. Most Genasi are from that region. My character will be a Genasi. Cool. So he will be from not that far north from VR, but not from VR.
Okay,
originally.
And that's fine. And it makes sense that this is an area where there's plenty of communication, right? We've established just in the pitch, hey, there's trade caravans. Well, trade caravans mean people going back and forth and meeting people they want to settle down with, or meeting a cool town that they're like, oh, this is a great place, or you know what, I just set up shop here and I haven't moved. It makes sense that there's back and forth, right? These are not clearly delineated racial societies.
Right. And if it matters for anybody else's backstory, VR, which is the region this is in, is home to a place called the Great Bazaar, which is just essentially a giant merchant, tent trading city. Right. But when I say giant, I don't mean big for a tent trading city. I mean it's incredibly big. It has its own, not system of government so much, but there is a lot going on there, and it's very large and it's very economic based. So it's a place of a lot of come and go, like Grant said, but it's also a place that was one of the only things I ever put in VR when I made the region, was sort of this giant place called the Great Bazaar, and I think we've only used it once because it's part of Ben's. It was part of Ben's backstory from last campaign, but
Right.
that's about it. But it is just a giant thing called the Great Bazaar, if that is of use to anyone.
Okay, so I'd like to pause for just a moment here and indicate something. So we're kind of in the stage of this session 0 right now where you've got an idea for your character who is kind of tied to a specific region in the world. I know from our conversation before we hit record that Daniel and I both have specific character concepts in mind, but not necessarily tied to a region. That is both normal and okay when you go into a session 0, is people will fixate on different things to start out with. The idea is to kind of get all of those disparate ideas together and synthesize them into a functioning party.
Yeah. So real quick, before we go too much further, I have worked up a bit of a hex map for the region. I'm going to go ahead and share this window real quick.
Ooh, awesome.
Just so you guys can see it. This is what I'm working with right now. And this is, by the way, a really great tool called Hex-tml.
Cool.
I like their naming scheme. Very good.
Yeah, it's great.
Oh,
It's been
that's
through
9 out of 10.
Yeah, it's been through a bunch of iterations. It's a really cool web-based hex map drawing utility. It's excellent, and I've been playing around with it some over the past couple of days, and this is what I've got so far. I will, by the way, put a picture of the final map in Ryan's hands so he can share it out to go along with this episode. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Check the show notes.
Cough, cough. Also, twitter.com/CityOnTheHillGame.
Important.
Look
Follow
at us
them,
learning how to
please.
do plugs.
Yep, follow and retweet. Like and subscribe. Hit that bell button.
Yay.
Wait, what?
Turn on
Wrong thing.
notifications.
We're
I know,
not on
right? Where?
YouTube. What are you talking about?
All
Are
right, so
you
this-
mad, sir?
But to give those who aren't looking at the map a quick overview, Azoran is, this, like I said, this sort of elemental land, right? Fire and earth and water and air in very elemental forms. And so what we've established is there's a big mountain range dividing Azoran and VR with a couple of routes through there and a very unpleasant desert. Looking at the map, by the way, you should be able to see up in the north, there's a couple of volcanoes surrounded by mountains. Those are the big black peaks with some broken lands all around those, right? Steep, craggy hills and cliffs and precipices and sharp-edged rocks. And look, it's just awful, okay? It's hot and it's miserable and it's sharp. Nobody enjoys it, okay? But then also hills and then a big mix of like desert that's rocky and deserts that's less rocky.
So Arizona and Utah.
Yes, but with like
Volcanoes
yes, but D&D.
and lava. Yes.
My actual visual inspiration for it is the Black Desert in Egypt, which is a relatively small piece of desert, but very rocky. Lots of black rock underneath all of the desert sand. It's lovely. It's bleak. It's barren, and is exactly where an adventure should take place. Right. I'm also partway through, as you can see, drawing a road down here to the grasslands and other, slightly better area that is a little further to the southwest. And then there's just a sea of dunes off to the east where we haven't really established anything. And maybe we will. Who knows, right? You'll note I have not put any cities on here yet. You haven't put any towns, anything like that. Some of it is, I don't know yet. We'll figure it out. But some of it is, maybe some of it will come up in this session. So anyway, this hopefully is giving you some idea of kind of what I'm talking about here. Let's talk characters. I know a couple of you have character ideas. Let's hear them. Who wants to start?
Daniel, why don't you go first?
Yeah, I will start. I don't have a specific idea of the region yet, and so that's maybe something we could brainstorm. But the idea of my character is I wanted to have a character who this sort of adventure is the absolute worst fit possible, where this is just going to be a miserable journey for them because I'm playing an accountant. It's going to be an inquisitive rogue, but basically it's going to have he's going to have a little ledger book and a DM 83 pocket abacus, and it's going to be great. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm excited about the character, but he's going to be like nebbish and not used to adventuring. But, you know, you put him with a stack of like financial papers in front of his comptroller and he's off to the races. But out here in the desert, trying to account for this lost caravan and have to, you know, make deal with his ledger books on it, gonna be a rough go.
He's
Okay,
he's Frodo Baggins with a math degree.
No, Frodo Baggins was still like,
from the perspective
okay.
that Frodo did not want to do the thing and was super uncomfortable the whole time.
Well, a little bit, but hobbits in general are pretty okay with roughing it.
Reasonable. I like that. I like your concept. Also, you named your calculator with the correct parlance, and I appreciate that. I'm sorry, abacus with the correct parlance, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, it doesn't do graphing yet. I have to get it enchanted for that.
Okay, good call. I like it.
So here's where I want to cut in, because this is an example of something that can happen and did. You guys just haven't heard this yet. Sometimes hearing one character concept will help crystallize another one, but this is going to require Daniel to agree to it first. So one of the things that I have been kind of thinking of doing for a while is playing like a professional protective specialist, bodyguard security specialist kind of guy, not a nightclub bouncer who's just a big sack of meat, but like the kind of smart executive protection, keep you alive kind of people. And Daniel has just come up with an extraordinarily vulnerable character who probably is going to have somebody whose job it is to keep him alive, and I figured I could play that character.
I'm not opposed to it, but one of the things I wanted to try was a character who in no way has a position that's important enough to need protection. They're literally like, oh, we need like who's like a junior executive to go out and track this down, because none of us really want to do it. Oh, I know. We'll send that guy.
So let me throw something out at you, Daniel.
Sure.
How does that track with your character being 7th level?
He's I would say he's really good at figuring out problems. He's just not really good at adventuring.
Okay.
So a lot of what the Inquisitive Rogue is, for people that might not be familiar, it's very much based on insight and perception. I think are the two like really skills that it's really hinged on, and it's basically like Sherlock Holmes but an accountant, but without all the like cool boxing and the slow-mo and all of that cool like Sherlock vision. Except he can kind of have that in fighting, because he gets to use his insight score and makes a check, and then just gets a sneak attack if he wins, like regardless of situation. But he's very insightful, he's very cerebral, but that doesn't necessarily really translate to physical skill.
Okay, so this is the point at which, you know, I can pivot and say, all right, that's fine. How about if my character is just there to keep the entire group alive?
I mean, presumably we have someone who has sent us to figure something out. It would not be uncommon for them to send someone to make sure physically that is plausible for us. If that fits with the direction Grant is, you know, theoretically going with this, I can see that making a fairly good amount of sense.
I'm leaving this to all of you guys.
And
your motivations are your own.
I haven't really necessarily explained my character yet, but I see him as something of a guide, so it makes sense for there to be someone to take you to where there is a problem that needs to be solved, someone who's there to professionally solve the problem, and someone who's there to make sure everyone gets there safe. So I think we can make that kind of a fluid combination. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like we're kind of getting somewhere already, so that's a good sign. Ben and William, what are you guys thinking for character concepts?
That's a very good question. So I think after mine and Ryan's discussion a while back, so as most of y'all know, I don't have much experience with this. So you're going to have to walk me through a lot of it. But I think we talked about maybe a dragonborn wizard.
It turns out William has really enjoyed playing the sort of magic user guy, and if he wants to go Magi again, I have no objections to that. I know you considered Dragonborn and I think Shifter were the two things you were most interested in.
So I don't think I'll be able to pull off the Shifter. It seems to be more of a beastly character, and I mean, just knowing my experience, I'm not gonna be able to pull that one off. So I figured Dragonborn's probably a better option.
That is totally your call. If you want to go Dragonborn, we will absolutely send you that direction. That's fine.
Well,
Unless you
and
got a better idea.
something else to consider. Well, no, I think this is a great idea. There are a couple of different types of dragons that are native to the desert. So either whether you choose one of those and kind of play two type and be like, oh yeah, I'm physiologically adapted to this, or you choose a different one, like maybe one of the aquatic species, and play against type and grumble about how everything is dry and awful, you have something interesting either way.
Yep. And this is maybe a good point to interject here. We are not using out-of-the-box D&D rules for this game. We're kind of following community recommendations here to a certain degree and just kind of doing free-form stat bonuses. Basically, everybody, the races get their own unique features, but the stat bonuses, we're just saying, look, you get a +2 to one stat, a +1 to another stat. Don't worry about it, right? Yep. There might be one or two things we have to make an exception for if somebody picks like variant human or something like that, where they get a feat, and there's a balance thing, but whatever. It's 7th level. Everybody's unbalanced. It doesn't matter. So
I'm here for it.
And I mean, you're going to talk your way out of problems anyway, so who cares about
combat? It's us. What do you know?
Only half? We're going to talk our way out of about 90% of our problems if the last campaign is any indication.
Peter,
I demand, Rockslide, that you stop. Yeah,
you set the bar low, and then we overachieve, and everyone's happy.
Yeah, come on.
We start at 50 and we work our way up.
Sorry. I shouldn't pull back the curtain that far.
Managing expectations.
We are who we are as a podcast. He's not wrong.
As a result, if somebody heard Dragonborn Wizard a moment ago and went, what? Why are you doing that? This is why. Are Dragonborns out of the book statistically wizardly? No. Do we care? No. Good talk.
Yeah.
So, William, I love the Dragonborn Mage idea, or the Magi idea. Which appeals to you? Playing against the desert type or playing into it? We've already got one character who wants to be like completely unsuited to the desert.
Okay.
We could have a group of desert misfits, bumbling around like 1920s Europeans going, the desert, wonderful. Or we could have,
where's my water?
Yes, or we could have a group of people who are like, I've never been here, and one person's like, what do you mean? I live here, dude. Chill. It's fine.
Yeah.
This is just a big beach, right? There's water somewhere. That's what deserts are,
way
right?
underground.
It's just a big beach, right? We're good? Okay.
Yeah. All right, William.
I guess it doesn't really matter either way.
Okay. But if something appeals to you, go ahead and speak up. Like, again, you're going to hear things as other people talk that may make you go, oh, wait, what if my character is this? And that's kind of the point, right? We want to build on that.
Yeah, I'll listen for a little bit and then try to, but that's something good to think about. I didn't think about it, so.
Ben.
Yeah, so I had an idea coming into today, and then had a half an hour before the call, my brain shifted. So my original thought, and I'm open to groupthink on this, is the Luxodon Druid, kind of a low-level healer-ish, also just big and horribly suited for desert.
For those not aware, Loxodons are a Magic the Gathering species that are basically elephant folk.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they're awesome.
Just a giant elephant man.
Yeah, I love them. They're great, just to be clear.
Yeah, just big and beefy and full of tusks.
My other thought is actually a variant of one that I came up with earlier and was about to abandon until I found another class, another race that made me very, very happy. A satyr, or fawn, if you will, that is a Way of Mercy monk, which is Unearthed Arcana, new stuff, which also would be kind of a lay on hands healer, not necessarily a spellcaster, but a touch healer. So depending on how the group dynamic, which one would work better, I'm open to either. I'll honestly say right now my brain is shiny and giggling on the satyr. I've named him Reepsy Peven.
Thank you.
That's
C.S.
a-
Lewis.
That's a very, very C.S. Lewis-y name.
Well,
It
give it
sure is.
Reepsy, C.S. Lewis, and the Pevensies. So
Of course.
Yes.
yeah, it's just a really fun way to do a fawn.
Yeah, I love that idea.
Um,
I love the idea also of a monk.
Yeah.
First off, I love monks in general. Always had a soft spot for them in D&D myself. But I particularly like the idea of a monk out here in this sort of wasteland, because that seems sort of fitting. And also, I've watched a lot of Avatar recently.
Perfect.
And,
Yep.
a lot of Earth Kingdom vibes coming off of this. It's fine.
Well, and I was thinking kind of along the lines of as far as character and like who and what and why he's here. Very similar to Kung Fu: The Legend Continues or the original Kung Fu David Carradine. Wandering monk.
Wow. You just opened that random file in my brain. Thanks for that. All right.
You're welcome. That is
Blowing off that dusty manila folder.
I feel like that's kind
That
of
is
what
a
Ben
file.
does on this show. He just kind of like, oh, also by the way, this thing you forgot about.
when you're in as ridiculously old as I am. I think the only one here comes close to me is Peter, and that's only by a few years.
I mean, I'm 41. Where do you fall?
40.
Okay, yeah. So I still got you beat, man.
I mean, I'm 37. I remember Kung Fu: The Legend Continues.
That
I'll
amazingly
be
bad
42 in like 2 months. So
I'm gonna be honest, I got nothing.
You're better
Yeah.
off for it.
That's
I mean-
probably fine.
I
Yeah, I
like
never
the
watched
original
either.
I like the original Kung Fu movie. Watching bald David Carradine walk across rice paper without tearing it.
Yeah.
It was certainly a product of its time, but it
Oh
wasn't
no, that absolutely is also true.
like
Yeah.
for its time. Sure, it was not bad. It was fun.
Weird
Anyway.
fact, I do believe it was actually originally supposed to be Bruce Lee, but
Mhm.
Asians in the 60s in Hollywood were not allowed to be main characters.
Which is unfortunate.
Very.
Very true. Because that would have been a completely different show and so much better.
So, which one are you thinking right now? I know you're all on board the shiny
Yeah.
satyr train.
I like my personal gaming insecurities is red flagging druid because like William or unlike William, me and spells, that's a lot of work.
Okay.
Especially with the whole druids have everything and you have to pick it every morning. That's a lot of work.
That's understandable.
can I give you a real quick piece of advice for that, just in case you do want to try it?
Yeah.
What the clerics work the same way in terms of spellcasting, and I have played lots of clerics. What you do is you determine like 3 pre-made lists of spells for specific situations. Like, we're going to be in a city and doing social stuff. We're going to be out in the dangerous wilderness and we expect to get into a fight. Or we're going to be in the wilderness that's dangerous because of the environment, and we're not really, we might get into a fight, but mostly we need stuff that helps us survive, for instance, for this one. Once you've got those 3, you just decide which one you're going to use, and you're all done.
I like that. So honestly, I'm honestly torn 50-50 on these because I love the ideas of both of them.
Well, if you want to try the druid, I'll be happy to help you with spell selection. If you
Okay.
want to do the monk, go ahead and do that.
And in favor of the monk, if this is something that you think is fun for a little while, this is going to be a short game.
True.
And it's okay to pick characters that are designed for short games that burn out, that burn bright for a little while, don't have a ton of staying power, and you have fun with them.
Yeah,
True.
and in contrast to that, one of the good things about just D&D in general, especially in something like this, is a saying that I'm very fond of: is the stakes have never been lower. If you want to
True.
just try a druid, like go for it, because I mean at the worst you're gonna cast some spells and you're gonna do druid stuff for however many sessions this runs.
Yep. And I'll tell you right now, as a GM, I have no problem going, hey, you got this this spell on in your class list, right? That might be helpful right here.
Right.
You know that, right? I have no problem with that. My GMing style is always to be a fan of the characters. I like challenging the characters. I like putting them in awful situations and watching them react, but I am a fan of the players and the characters, and I want to see them succeed over the obstacles I present. Right?
I've been gaming with Grant for like 8 years, can confirm.
Which actually is great for the kind of gaming I love to play, which is fail amazingly.
Yes. Please fail spectacularly. I want to see it.
I dig it.
Oh, good.
Some of the best moments I've ever seen or been part of have been epic failures in the best way possible.
Oh, you should be in our Star Wars game then.
Ooh.
We're using, and this is getting wildly off topic, and I apologize, but we're using Impulse Drive, which is a powered by the Apocalypse system. And one of our players, who is notorious, I have known this man 15 years. He is notorious for having awful dice luck. Rolling digitally does not help.
Oh.
It never does.
We this is a 2d6 system, right? You want to try and roll, the way Powered by the Apocalypse works. 10 or above, unconditional success. You get what you want, or you get a lot of things off your roll. 7 to 9, success with complication. You can only get like one thing out of a couple of options. Like you can do this well, or quietly, or without any collateral damage. Pick one. And then 6 or less is you fail and the GM gets to do something terrible to you. Most important roll of the session, he rolled a 2.
Oh no,
Man,
it was
I
close
love
to the
that
highest
system.
roll he'd rolled that whole evening. It was
Oh my.
you get an XP point every time you fail a roll in Impulse Drive, and
that's
every
a fun
5
mechanic.
XP you go up, you get an advance, which is like an extra move or a stat increase or something like that. He got 5 XP just from failed rolls.
that session.
Wow.
That session.
Okay,
That's fantastic.
that's unfortunate, and I love it.
Yeah,
One of
I
the
love
Character
that
building
kind of game.
perspective,
It's
that's
wonderful.
great.
Yeah. All right. Short, and then we can get back on subject. One of my favorite things that I ever saw was a group in Loading Ready Runs Dice Friends where they were playing Paranoia, and one of the guys is rolling dice, and everyone else is staring at him like, "Why did you make that decision?" And he goes, "Now listen, I just like to I like to roll my characters one monkey's paw at a time."
Oh no.
And a quick saving the game plug here. Our latest episode had W.C. McGuffin on, who is the lead product manager for Paranoia.
Oh, that's cool.
Yes.
Very nice.
That's a
Yes.
great
Yeah.
episode. I already listened to it.
Yeah, and has my one Paranoia game on it, which was special.
Yeah,
very
that
good
was,
way.
That was interesting.
Anyway.
I've heard that story a few times. Anyway,
But
yeah, we
D&D.
need to get back on.
All right, so we've got let's kind of run down what we have. Ben, you're still kind of going back and forth, right?
So I think I might have just brain shinied on the solution. I think I'm going to go with the Satyr Druid,
Satyr Druid, okay.
Circle
like
of Dream.
Circle of Dream, okay.
So
The
sort
two
of
things that my brain is shiny on. So
All right, so real quick, Circle of Dream is what?
pulling it up right now. Circle.
And just I don't need all the mechanics. Just what's the general theme?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to remember completely.
If I'm not mistaken, this is Unearthed Arcana, fairly recent.
It's Xanathar's Guide.
Oh, is it Xanathar's Guide? Okay.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
it's kind of the healer druid.
Yeah, kind of the Healy options. Balm of the Summer Court can has an HP pool to push out to everybody.
Mhm.
Can affect short and long rests and things like that.
All right. So let me ask this then. We've got a satyr who is, for those who don't know, they have kind of an anti-magic thing going on with them, which kind of makes sense if they are from Majoran, a place that is full of elemental chaos and stuff, right?
Yes.
So that might be something to think about. Alternatively, this is a high magic world. Magic just happens. Sometimes you need to save against random fireballs. We get it. So I'm hearing here we've got a Genasi from the area, a satyr who's probably from the area, I would guess, but again, don't let me write your character for you. A Magus and an accountant who's out here despite himself, largely, and a bodyguard, potentially.
Yeah, and just to be explicit, I'm thinking paladin for that one.
Sure. What brought everybody out here, and do you all know each other at the start of the game?
Well, my accounting firm sent me, and I will see what everybody else thinks. I will say yes to whether or not we know each other. I don't have a problem with it, personally.
Okay, so my preference is yes, we know each other, because then we can already start off with like a certain amount of relationship stuff that we can play around with. And since this is going to be a shorter campaign, it's nice to be able to kind of hit the proverbial ground running with that sort of thing, rather than having to try and build it up, and once you really start getting there and clicking, the game's over. That's just my 2 cents.
Right. And I tend to agree. So, if you guys do know each other, how?
I would say, being a security specialist, I probably work with one of the caravans that's been affected by this.
Okay. So, are you maybe not so much assigned to protect Daniel's character, but maybe somebody who Daniel knows and is reaching out to help investigate this?
I would be fine with that. How do you feel about that, Daniel?
Yeah, that works. Yeah, just the kind of idea this accounting firm sends me. They give me an expense account. And so I have this expense account, so I'm gonna be like, you know what? I'm going to need help. So yeah, I will. That's fine. It could even just be like, yes, they gave me an expense account and forgot to give me the card with limits. So I've got the unlimited one. Who wants to go on this thing with me? And then just get a group of people. I'm fine with just that.
We're going on a trip together. Yay.
Cool.
There's also something really funny about a fiscally irresponsible accountant.
There is.
Yeah.
That's true. Which reminds me to plug the book Bob the Vampire Accountant. It's really funny book.
On another note, are we open to is anybody else open to the option of a quasi-investigation company, like organization, like a guild, if you will, that is what gets hired? So it's not just so like we all work for the same, I guess, security firm for the caravan. Would that make sense?
I'd be cool with that too.
I think at least for mine, I would treat him more probably as this is the guy. I'm like the outside contractor you hire to take you around the area.
Yeah,
I think works for him because his. So I haven't. I'm gonna go ahead and explain. If no one has objections, I'm gonna go ahead and explain mine, and then we'll jump back into this part. I made the weird choice to let Twitter make my character for me. I gave Twitter a bunch of options of things I was willing to play and said, okay, you guys choose. So they chose Air Genasi Shepherd. If you're not familiar with the name Shepherd, that's because we made it up for this. I had some opposition personally to the Warlock class for our game. And so at one point I considered revising the class. I worked with Peter on it for a while. Gregory from the Same in the Game community, Cameron from First Geek 411 have all been helping me with this. And we, with a bunch of other people, so thank you guys so much. In the long run, we're just kind of saying, look, we're just not going to use Warlock. And instead, here is a new class we're adding to the sort of range of options. It just so happens Twitter's like, yeah, that thing, do that thing. And I'm like, okay, fine, we'll do that thing. Shepherds are like probably not primary healers, though they can. There's three subclasses. One can function basically as a primary healer. One is a little more of a combat healer, and the other is a little more of a actual like nature guide kind of thing. I'm uncertain which of the three I'm going with expressly, but I think treating him as sort of a shepherd I treat as sort of a class that's about going where they're needed, doing what needs to be done, you know, protecting people, leading people, and just kind of doing that thing, but doing it kind of very sort of like a traveling monk kind of thing. Like they're not necessarily always going to stay the same place or be doing the same thing. So I think for him, it makes sense to just kind of be like, oh, also we know this guy who occasionally, you know, guides the caravans. Maybe he knows a thing, and then I show up and I'm like, hey, oh hey, okay, yeah, I can take you over there. That's fine. And just kind of that's how I'm considering at least playing him. So yeah, I think it makes sense for us to know each other. I think that works out nicely, and I don't mind like if you guys want to do this whole we work together. I know them from work. Also, I hired them. I think that actually puts us in an interesting dynamic, but it gives us a reason to all know each other and all to be going to do the thing. So that sort of Grant has set out that isn't just okay. We need 5 people to go fix a thing. It makes sense for us to be doing it as a group, and I like that idea.
Okay.
I'm also going to toss this out here real quick just at the beginning of this because this is this game, you know, for this particular actual play and stuff. The security specialist has a little bit of a harder edge than I think I'm really intending to convey here. If you listen to season 2 and kind of like Bertrand's extreme reluctance to use lethal force, there's going to be more of that here. And if somebody asks him about it, he's going to say something to the effect of, I'm a bodyguard. It's my ability to keep people alive. And leave it at that.
And I'm totally fine with that. A, for our purposes, and B, just because I like the idea. It works for me.
Yeah.
Okay. So it sounds like we're settling in on this investigative group. Who's hiring them? Daniel, is that your character who's kind of pulling this together with the company credit card?
The more I think about it, it sounds like an amusing idea, but I think it would make more sense for, say, my comptroller to be hiring them out, for like the actual accounting firm to be like, all right, we need product recovery. So you, Ansel, you're in charge of the books. Here's the inventory list. And we're going to hire a team to go out there, and you're going to go to.
Daniel, have you heard the story of the guy who outsourced his own job to China?
No, but that sounds amazing.
He found somebody in China who would do his job for about half his paycheck. And so or for a lot less than half, basically. And so he sat at his desk while somebody else, while he passed off all of his work to this guy in China, and then turned it in on his own. And it worked for a couple of years.
That's incredible.
Brilliant.
What do you think about the idea of, would you say the name was Ansel? Ansel.
Yes.
Solve this problem. And you going, I'm going to need a team. And they gave me a credit card, and nobody's going to actually read my report.
You know what? I really like this idea. I have written the character up as lawful neutral, as I think all accountants should be lawful neutral. And
this sounds perfectly by the book.
Oh, no, this is exactly. They asked me to recover this product and give a full accounting. So they didn't tell me how. So this is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to do exactly what they asked. Okay. I love it.
Cool. William, circling back around to you. You've been kind of quiet. What are you thinking right now?
I guess the question you asked earlier, I'm listening to the ideas and I'm good with it. Not much of a storyteller, so I'm listening to learn. And so your question earlier, I could fit on either spectrum of being from the area, because I was looking at Dragonborn, and with the draconic ancestry, essentially it comes with an elemental relationship. The breath weapon would be an element. I was just thinking through, maybe it looks like if I was from the area, probably brass with brass or gold with a fire breath weapon, or red, or silver or white with a cold might work best
Mhm.
in that aspect. But I could also see like Dragonborn, if I understand correctly, is kind of unique. So I could come from anywhere really and still fit in.
And
Let me
just to
throw one other thing your way.
hold on, real quick,
Okay.
Peter, just to double check
Yep.
something. Ryan, does this setting, because you're sort of the setting master in a way here,
CCR.
does this setting have any sort of relationship between dragon, whether the dragons being chromatic or metallic, and their actual alignment?
No, I have no care one way or the other. I don't.
Okay.
I
Do you know what
think
I'm
for the-
talking about?
Only vaguely, yeah. That there is that
Okay.
attachment to.
Yeah,
For
you
the
have
dra-
your
for the
chromatic
dragon
dragons that are the evil
specifically,
ones, and the
right.
metallic ones that are the good ones, and blah blah blah.
I could care less.
Cool.
It probably, honestly, for our setting purposes, it probably makes way more sense to not do that.
Cool. And that's what I figured, but I wanted to
Yes.
make it explicit for everyone.
Do not that. That's fine.
Rad. So, long and short of it is, William, if you've got one that you like, sweet, go for it.
Yeah, let me just throw this out real quick, just for William's edification. Blue dragons have lightning breath, but they are native to deserts by canon. So if you like blue for whatever reason, they're a deserty kind in the default lore. Or change it up.
Yep.
So, I mean, and whichever one you have a preference for, I think it doesn't. It's one of those things. We'll make it work one way or the other from a story perspective.
Sure.
I don't think that's
Oh, yeah.
that's all that big a deal for this group. If you want to be green, be green. If you
Yeah,
want
I
to
can-
not be green, don't be green.
Yeah, I can think of flavor reasons for every single type of dragon to exist out here. You know, hey, did you know deserts get cold at night? Sweet, white dragon,
That's
whatever,
true.
right?
Yeah.
Like, we can make it work.
Yes, 100%.
So basically, if there's a breath weapon that you think is super duper cool, yeah, be that dragon.
Mhm.
Okay, so I'm glad Daniel did that summary because I'm sorry I didn't catch a single word of what was said.
No, that's disappointing.
It's
I think it's the audio thing
was-
again.
It was
It
eloquent,
is.
and
Yeah,
I'll never say it better.
My closed captions failed me that time. I turned them on to try to catch anything that the audio guys got on, and it just had nothing for me. So
Oh, that's unfortunate.
No.
sorry. So, but pick whatever. Well, and that's kind of what I was saying. Trying to fit into the group,
Mhm.
it might make more sense to do one or the other. If I'm trying to say fit into the environment, but
Sure.
if I'm coming from anywhere else, and you may have addressed this, if I'm coming from somewhere else as part of this group that's been called in, then it wouldn't really matter.
Right.
Um,
So that's kind of the question. Do you want to be a local expert? Or do you want to be new to the area?
so is that where I don't know if I could be an expert in anything.
Well,
your
you're going to be an
character,
expert in magic, for one thing.
your character is an expert. You, William, don't have to know all that much about deserts. If you're supposed to know it, you'll know it.
I guess that could fit into the Magi, right?
Of course.
Oh yeah.
So that might be a good part to play.
They
Okay.
sort of make their bones being the guys who know the things from that perspective. So I think that fits you beautifully.
Have you been living out here long?
I hope so if I'm an expert.
Okay. Well, not every expert in a field is,
Yeah.
residing in that area, there's always the academic at a distance going, I get to finally see it in person. But yeah, if you want to be the local Dragonborn wizard or magi who's been out here for a while and, has local contacts and knows where to get spell components and all that sort of stuff, great. I am down for that.
Sure. It'd be a challenge.
If one of you will, give me the saving the game stuff, and we will go from there.
Sure.
I'll take it. So Grant and I are 2/3 of saving the game. We do like RPG analysis, basically, and applied theology from a Christian perspective. You can find us at stgcast.org, savingthegamepodcast.org, at Saving the Game on Facebook or Twitter, and also on our Discord server, which is linked from our webpage, stgcast.org.
Also, iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Play,
Yeah.
all your usual podcast places.
Yep. We're on a every other week schedule, and on the weeks when we don't have an episode, I write a blog post. So you can find all of that at the website.
Yep.
And you can find us cityonthehillgaming.com, or like Grant said, wherever you get your podcast. We are on Twitter at City on the Hill Game. We are on Twitch. I believe it's City on the Hill Gaming. Look out for that. We're going to be using it at least slightly more often. We've got some things coming up. And if you're a fan of Retro Rewind, or if you've never heard of the Retro Rewind podcast, go check them out.
It's a good podcast.
Yes, it is. Before this comes out, I think their episode 205 will release, which is their episode for the Disney classic, yes, I said classic, fight me, Mulan, which I got to be on, which was super fun, with Ashley,
Nice.
who is one of their big fans and one of our Patreon sponsors, and also Celeste from Geek Devotions. She's one half of the Geek Devotions group with her and her husband, Dallas, I believe is his name. So the three of us went on Retro Rewind and talked at length about Mulan from some different aspects, and that was super fun. So thank you to Francisco and Paul for that. That was a great opportunity. Really appreciate that. And yeah, look out for more of our D&D or whatever else we play next. Goodness in the future. Patreon.com for us and Saving the Game, and we will talk to you guys later. Have a blessed day. Thanks for listening to City on the Hill Gaming. For more information, you can find us online at cityonthehillgaming.com, email us at cityonthehillgaming@gmail.com, or find us on Twitter at cityonthehillgame. For more information on Saving the Game, you can find Peter, Grant, and Jenny at stgcast.org or at Saving the Game on Twitter. Thanks, and have a blessed day. Special thanks to our Patreon backers, Joanne, Ashley, Tony and the folks from the Nerd of Godcast, and Andrew. You guys' help is greatly appreciated.